Thank you for coming to our candidate forum, and welcome. I will begin with the Chamber's acknowledgement of our spirits and the land. The London Chamber of Commerce recognizes that the area in which we gather, work, and live is located within the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Lenape, Haudenosaunee, and Chinantan nations, land that is also shared by Métis, Inuit, and urban Indigenous community members. The City of London is party to the London Township Treaty of 1796 and the Longwoods Treaty of 1819. We thank the Indigenous people's commitment and relationship with the land and waters for knowing that our ongoing survival is connected to the land. I would like to acknowledge the communities in Circle, the east, south, west, and northern directions. We acknowledge the local First Nations communities in this area: Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. This region is now home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis communities. This area is also subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. And this is an agreement to establish peaceful cooperation between communities. We share the responsibility with the land's stewards for ensuring that the dish is never empty and for reestablishing relationships that are based on peace, trust, and friendship. The London Chamber of Commerce is committed to the process of truth and reconciliation. As we begin our journey towards reconciliation, it is essential to understand what this means and how it looks. Reconciliation is more than admitting mistakes, and listening alone is insufficient. It requires action, and that action can take many forms, including individually and professionally. We acknowledge the historical and ongoing injustices faced by Indigenous peoples in Canada, and we feel responsible to expose and correct misinformation, while also renewing respectful relationships with Indigenous communities through amplifying and uplifting Indigenous voices, stories, knowledge, and community service. Reconciliation requires having a good relationship to begin with, and then striving to reconcile it. For many Indigenous peoples, there has never been a healthy relationship. While inequalities, injustices, and power imbalances still exist, we must never forget that. Through this understanding, we can begin the rebuilding of friendly relations. But most importantly, it requires love, respect, and compassion. Now is the time to question existing beliefs and invest in strong relationships. Thank you. And now, before we introduce our mayoral candidates, I'd just like to say how honored we are that we can put on an event such as this one. And it is thanks to our generous sponsor, Labatt, that we were able to offer this event free of charge to the public. Today, Labatt was going to be represented by John Zerochelli, who runs government relations for Labatt, but unfortunately had a medical issue and is unable to attend. But what I can say on his behalf, sent me a note, is that he wanted to draw your attention to the question forms that were handed out to you at the registration table. If you have a question for the candidates, please write it down in your most legible handwriting. You will be marked.
Or we won't ask the question.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Raise your hand so that someone can collect it for you. We'll keep an eye on that. One of our volunteers will collect it. Please understand that given we have a limited time frame, we may not be able to get to all of your questions, but we're going to do our best to cover as many as we can. And if we can't get to your questions, I'm sure the candidates will be only too happy to stick around for a while after the event and chat with you. And I do want to add, having talked to John about Labatt's commitment to this type of civic engagement, he asked me particularly to underline how important Labatt feels that it is for Chamber of Commerce to be engaged in this, this type of activity. And we are very proud for the first time in our history, we believe, to have done that with during the provincial campaign, and now we have extended it to the campaign here in London, the municipal campaign. So, from left to right, our candidates are, and we did this in alphabetical order, which is not how it is on my sheet, so forgive me if I get this wrong, but Pastor Sandie Thomas, Khalil Ramal, Josh Morgan, Norman Robert Miles, Sean O'Connell, and Daniel Lenart. So please welcome them all to our stage. Carrie?
Thanks, Graham. I first of all just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Carrie Robbins. I'm a proud colleague and vice president at TD Bank, who, as most of you likely know, have a long history here in the city. And I also am a proud board member of the London Chamber of Commerce.
And I should have introduced myself. I'm the CEO at the
Everybody knows you,
I'm the
Graham.
CEO of the London Chamber of Commerce. So yeah, we're going to be conducting the question and answer. Carrie, you want to just set the ground rules for folks?
Sure. First, we would like to remind candidates that this is a timed event. Say that one more time, a timed event. And candidates, you will have 2 minutes each to give your opening address. And please pay attention to the countdown timer at the front of the stage and conclude your remarks when your time is up. And we will let you know in case you're not looking at that clock.
And we saw you do elevator pitches for the CBC, so we know this is possible.
Yeah.
This is just a longer elevator ride.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with Pastor Sandie and work to the end.
You can just say Sandie Thomas.
Okay.
I am Sandie Thomas, running to be the next mayor for the City of London, simply for this reason, to bring inclusivity to our city, where all voices will matter in all situations pertaining to the city. Can you imagine driving down on the city streets and seeing someone that's disabled with a wheelchair and their bed beside them? We have a problem. When you have individuals that are not feeling safe, that are from the two-spirited LGBTQI community, transgender women, faith, people of faith not feeling safe, we have a problem. When seniors don't feel safe, we have a problem. That is why I'm running to be the next mayor for the City of London, so that all voices can be heard and we can have the city that we need to have, a great, safe city for our children, for our seniors, for you. Thank you.
My name is Khalil Ramal. I'm running for mayor because I have the leadership experience. I was elected twice to the provincial parliament, and during that time, I served as a chair and served in many different committees, including health, education, and social services. I worked internationally and nationally, and I have a lot of experience locally. I created many different companies with in excess of $3 billion. I worked with the Italian community to secure the funding for their affordable homes project. Sadly, for the last 4 years, Londoner has seen many crises. Crisis of homelessness, crisis of housing, crisis of safety, and the greatest crisis of all, the people of London are losing faith in City Hall. We cannot afford to repeat the last 4 years. Londoners deserve better, and that's why I put my name forward to be your next mayor. And thank you.
I'm going to stand up for the intro so I can actually see people. It's very bright up here. My name's Josh Morgan, and I'm running for mayor. Listen, we have a city that has tremendous opportunity. We're one of the fastest growing cities, fastest growing economies in all of Ontario. But as all cities of our size, we have significant challenges that come with that. Challenges of mental health and addictions, challenges of homelessness, challenges of attraction of talent into the city. And it will be the next council who has to tackle these challenges. If you look around the audience today, you'll see many candidates from across the city. Many are here tonight here this morning to listen to us speak. It will be a team. The mayor is just one vote. But I want to thank all of those candidates who are here today for putting their names on the ballot. Our city is strongest when there are great, passionate people from all backgrounds running in the election to give the electorate choice. You'll choose a team out there, Londoners. You'll choose a team. And I'm prepared to lead that team. I'm prepared to lead many of the individuals in this room to tackle those enormous challenges we have as a city and seize the opportunities. This will be something we cannot do alone. Every major city our size is facing the challenges. You need connections with other levels of government. You need partners with not-for-profits. You need amazing not-for-profits who are doing such wonderful work in our city to help us tackle these challenges. It's not something government can do alone, but it is something that requires leadership. And as someone who has 8 years of experience on council, as someone who has those connections through my work at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, I'm prepared to start this job on day one. We cannot afford to wait. These challenges are too important to our city. I want to end just by thanking the Chamber and everyone involved for coming out here today. Thanks for putting on this wonderful event. Thank you to your volunteers who are making it possible. And on October 24th, vote Josh Morgan. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Norman Miles. I'm running for mayor. A lot of people don't know me, but I've been to where a lot of people have been. I've been almost homeless. I've been out of work, trying to provide for my family, and I need to give back. I mean, there's a lot of problems we have to deal with. The homelessness, that hits a little bit close to home. The affordable housing. Have people, we don't know where they're going to live. They don't living on streets. Even the crime and drugs. We got to get them off the street. And then we have to deal with the transit, which everybody's complaining. Well, it's not working. It's not working. But we do have to deal with all these problems. And I hope on the 24th you will elect a council and a mayor that will do the job. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sean O'Connell, and my family and I have lived in London since 1989. I was actually originally born here as well. A little bit about me. I trained for 3 years by working in the House of Commons in the United Kingdom. I trained in finance and policies, practices, and processes. Coming back, I did work for a brief stint with the Ministry of Labour in London. I was helping issue inspectors to emergencies, which was pretty hectic. London has been struggling for a long time, and I've been around for the last 3 decades, so I know the struggles that we're going through. But London also has a huge amount of potential that tends to get squandered. And I want to actually ensure that we can actualize on that. I'm looking at 6 main areas in my platform. They include transit, animal welfare, law enforcement, housing, the environment, and city hall reforms. Which if you read my blog posts, you'll find out about the democratic deficit that I describe. But I firmly believe that with the right kind of leadership for London, we can actually start making the progress that we've been desiring for some time. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for coming out today. My name is Dan Lenart, and I am also running for mayor. I used to work for the Chamber of Commerce years ago at the old location. My next door neighbor was running the club. And he said, how'd you like to work for the Chamber of Commerce? And I said, wow, that sounds like a job. And yeah, and I was a teenager, and that was my first job. And I've also performed on the stage with a band several times. And I've worked in the social services, and so I know the first three questions quite well in a very close and upfront way. I know a lot of those people downtown on the sidewalk, and I know a lot of those people in the tents sleeping out there as it gets cold and in the freezing. And some of them won't make it through the winter. And only 39% voted last time, and that's a shame for this city. TVO is saying only 25% will vote for this election. And right across the province, there's a lot of acclamations. But I don't think this is a waste of time. You folks out there don't think it's a waste of time. We here on the stage don't think it's a waste of time. We've come out. I'd like to thank the Chamber for organizing this. And hopefully you will hear some answers and some solutions to these problems. And let's get on with it. On October 24th, vote Dan for mayor.
Well, you guys can't see how well these folks did, but all under 2 minutes. Brilliant. Thanks very much, folks. So I'm going to turn it over to Carrie for our first question for the group.
Thanks, Graham. So I don't know that we have a specific order in which we're going to ask these or who we're going to go to first. So I am just going to, we'll start with Sandie. Okay, perfect. So Sandie, we'll start with you with this one, if that's okay. So some of you hit on this topic in your opening statement. So let me start with many London businesses are still facing labor shortages. What strategies would you employ in order to attract and retain in London and to ensure that individuals across the city have the ability to travel to work efficiently?
Wonderful. Being an entrepreneur myself and having my own business, this hits home very well. And one thing we want to make sure is that we have to bring in these business owners. It's so easy that you can answer it yourself, but it's not about me. It's about our city. Bringing in and having a meeting with these business owners and ask them how would they like to see it being done. And then going with the city councilors and making sure that we can put an action plan together to make these deliverables okay. Because one thing you mentioned two things there. You spoke about travel. So you want to make sure that you have the London Transit Commission in that conversation. You want to make sure you have the planning department in that conversation. You want to make sure that you have the business owners, you have single mothers, single fathers, seniors in that conversation, because it's about our city. And if we want to make change, we have to change our mindset. We can't do the things that we were doing before. So we have to bring these voices in, let it be heard, and then sit with council, say, this is what the members of our community is saying. So in order for us to put a plan together that's going to work, it can't just come and be just about the city anymore. It has to be collectively about the community. And then we can drive the change. But it has to be changing our mindset in order to do the action to drive the change. So that is my answer to the question that you've asked, because it's just not about me. It's about all of us. Thank you.
You know, I'm a small business owner, and I know how much important for all of us to support the small business in the City of London. And I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for representing many of those businesses and making sure they're doing a good job for the London and for our economy. Sadly, for the last 4 years, the City of London and the past administration didn't support those small businesses to be able to sustain themselves, especially during the pandemic. And if I got elected as a mayor of the City of London, I will implement a small business development center to support those segments of our society, because I believe strongly our small business, the heartbeats of our economy, and depends on us to give them the support they need in order to be flourish and sustain themselves and be able to hire other people to work for them. And you mentioned something very important, the commuting and traveling. Sadly, Josh voted against the transit last time. No, I didn't vote. He didn't vote for efficient transit for the City of London, to give the ability for the many Londoners to be able to drive comfortably from their home to work. And, we have an issue with this. Now we have a transit sit like a chair on two legs instead 4 legs. So it's important for us to have the ability to have an efficient transit, to give the chance to people to work, whether from London to drive to Veteran Memorial Parkway, which most of the business is situated right now in the city of London, to give them the chance to work and come to the work in an efficient time. So therefore, as next mayor, I will make sure we have an efficient transit, give a chance ability, and I have a small business development center to assist all the business in London to strive and to be able to sustain themselves and hire more people in the city of London. And thank you.
Thank you. Josh?
Thank you. And I'm going to start off by addressing something that was just said. Mr. Ramal said in his platform he wants to build the BRT, and then he subsequently said on Craig Needle's show that he didn't want to rebuild the BRT or finish the BRT. He wanted to, let's say, enhance and build more efficient transit. So I'm not really sure what his plan is for efficient transit in the city, but what I have been is consistent. I've been consistent in not supporting a route in the West that was not going to work. A route that goes from dedicated lanes into mixed traffic, creating a bottleneck at one of the worst spots along the West route. We need to do better. So what did I do? I brought a motion with Councillor Lehman and Councillor Hopkins to City Council to say, let's find a better solution. Ultimately, that motion was rolled into the Master Mobility Plan process. This is the comprehensive process that will deal with all forms of mobility across the city. I've been consistent in my support for that public engagement and that process that will combine vehicular traffic, cycling, rapid buses, regular conventional transit, and of course also recognize London as a regional hub for transit in and out of the city. And this is where really the question gets answered is, talent acquisition is really important. Getting people to where they're going, or from where they want to be to where the jobs are, is incredibly important. That involves 2 things, not just efficient transit movements across the city from where people live to where they want to get to, but also movements in and out of the city. And London has the potential to be a regional transportation hub, something the mayor and I supported last term of council, something that will be in the Southwestern Ontario Task Force to move that flow of talent in and out of the city. Also, it's incredibly important for us to conclude the work that the Transit Commission is doing on getting people to our industrial zones. Transit to the industrial zones is incredibly important. That plan is almost complete and should be implemented, and we will have a better flow of individuals there. But I support the Master Mobility Plan process because that will be the comprehensive process that will set our transit directions for the next 25 years.
Well, I do agree with some of you. We do have to deal with transit, but there should be another way for employees to get to work. I mean, they got either Uber or they got to take a cab or bike, and in the wintertime they can't do it. So we need to have transit running later into industrial areas for some of these employees, and then work with the bike lanes, the traffic flow. Like I know they've taken down some houses to bring in the transit. I don't agree with that, kicking people out of houses, but and widening the roads. We can only go so far. What we need to do is reconstruct and look at the way things run. And for the business owners, I know what it's like going in. I Ubered for a year, and I've delivered food to everybody, and I know what it's like there. They just don't have the business like they used to. So hopefully we can get everybody back together and we can start bringing London back to where it was when I moved here about 20 years ago. Everybody was friendly. I mean, you didn't have to worry about crime, maybe a little bit then. But we need to get London back up and running and to compete with everybody else. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So in order to attract talent for London, mobility is key. I ride transit every day. I know what it's like to have to plan out your journeys beforehand. And if we can't get people on a basic level from point A to point B, that hampers us in the beginning. This is why transit hubs become extra important, because they will be focal points for economic activity. But it's also very much about improving the quality of life in London. We need more safety and security, obviously, because businesses can't operate if they are having to deal with societal issues. They're there to service customers and to create more economic activity. Having said that as well, London should have more buildings of architectural significance. You need to have some swagger when you're trying to do your plans and be somewhat bold in order to attract the type of talent and people that you want coming to the city. 3 decades ago, London was thought of as an up-and-coming city. That's why my family moved back here. Since that time, though, like I've said, we've squandered a lot of our capacity to do this. And I think that if we can position ourselves in such a way that we can actually attract the talent and get more residents coming here. Obviously, we do have more people from Toronto, and that's creating some pressures that we're experiencing. But in terms of the servicing the West and North for BRT, that's essential. It's a service. It's not about the money. It's providing that service in order for people to get around town. I don't know any city in North America that does half a transit plan, and this city did. So, thank you.
So getting to and from work, which is assuming that they're living in the suburbs and they're coming downtown to work. That's a big assumption. But we're back to the last election, and the last election was all about BRT. And what happened? Only 39% showed up to vote. That's what the people of London thought about the BRT. But we're back to it because we didn't finish it the first time. And what was the big issue for the BRT? Dedicated lanes. And we have railway passes and the Thames River. So we need much more, or way more, bridges across the river, overpasses across the rail lines to make it happen, especially with the dedicated lanes. But what did City Council do? They decided to make a new bus barn on the end of Wonderland instead of going through with the West Lane and the North Lane, which are controversial, and the houses along the lanes and the businesses, the mosque on Oxford is very controversial. Properties will be uprooted, and it doesn't seem to be very much agreement as to the route and all that. Warncliffe, if you have to go north, is better than Richmond. There's a lot of old buildings and properties as you go north on Richmond, and no one wants to go north on Richmond. Warncliffe has wider lanes, and if you have to go north to the university, take Warncliffe. But the other issue, of course, is will they come back downtown after being at home working on their computers? Is downtown viable anymore? We have the Great Resignation, so we have to count that in as a factor. But City Council has to grapple with some of these issues, and the assumption is downtown viable anymore. So is bus rapid transit still an issue? So these are some of the things, and we should agree that there are assumptions, really. Does London have a future downtown?
So thanks, everyone, for the answer to the question. Khalil, we'll be starting with you this time and then end with Sandie. So the second question is not going to be a surprise to anyone in this election, and it's about housing affordability. I saw the Premier today was announcing taking another stab at this. For businesses in London, very big issue, obviously. We need to be able to, we've all talked about attracting and retaining talent. They got to live somewhere. And that means Londoners from every socioeconomic bracket. So the question for you is quite specific, folks, and try to be as concrete as you can. What would you do, Khalil, to address housing affordability in London?
You know, it's when I knock on doors and, people tell me the most important things for them, affordabilities and housing. And as you know, it's not a secret. We have a waiting list up to 6,000 people waiting. And some people wait for probably 10 years to be able to find affordable homes. I was one time walking on the street in downtown, and I stopped by a lady, and she said to me, "Mr. Ramal, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Go ahead." And she said to me, "I'm a lucky person. I'm the most luckiest person on earth because I have a friend housed me for a year and a half. Otherwise, I would be homeless in the street. until I got a home from Indwell, which I pay right now $560 a month. And I collect money from ODSP, which is about $1,200. Still, I have enough money to buy food. So that's why I'm saying it's affordability and affordable homes very important. My friend Josh voted against more affordable homes for the City of London. He voted against creating like an incentive or a law to protect rentals who owns homes in the City of London or rental homes in the City of London. It's essential for us to create a mechanism and a place for people to live comfortably and safe. So I am proposing, as a new mayor for the City of London, to build 6,000 units by working with so many different stakeholders in the City of London to give us the chance to build those homes. Later on, after this debate, I'm going to have a press conference to announce an exciting announcement about the affordable homes for the City of London. And hopefully many people will be present at this announcement, because it's important to me and important for many Londoners who's facing this crucial issues on a daily basis.
So I'll start again by addressing something that was just said. I did not vote against affordable units in the City of London. I voted for 65 units on the 1,200 unit development in the south of the city, which will be transformative for that area. Context matters here. The developer, because the London plan was coming into effect and the 89 plan was ending, at any point could have withdrawn that application, reapplied, and built 30 affordable units. Councillor Pelosa got 65 units in that development, with more 2 and 3 bedrooms, which is needed in that area, which represented about 105 rooms of affordable housing, and a transformative project that will hopefully be a catalyst for developing that area near White Oaks Mall. But what are we going to do about affordable units? It's multifaceted. We got to do a number of things at the same time to build this. First, in my plan, I have an extension of our development charges waiver program to the transit villages, and I want to layer a new CIP on that, a new community improvement plan, which will have an affordable housing component to it. This gets us both intensity and affordable units in the places that we need them at the exact same time. The other thing we need to do is think about the whole spectrum. We can't just go by slightly below market rate rents, which are still out of reach for many Londoners. We have to dig into deeper affordability, which means the city's likely going to have to be involved in builds like we are, in builds on Thompson Road, Baseline Road, Embassy Commons is a good one. And in some of those, we need wraparound service supports so that we can support the most vulnerable. Finally, London Middlesex Community Housing needs to build more units, and finally, after 60 years, we've started doing that. We're building new units, new social housing in this city, and we are refurbishing 2,000 units, because it isn't just about affordable houses, it's about respectable houses that people can live in, and the state and the quality of that stock has deteriorated. So we are making bold moves, we're getting it done, and these are the actions that we need to carry forward to create more units faster to house all Londoners who need a home.
Well, I just want to say I lucked out. I live in a co-op, and my rent is fairly reasonable. And I don't know how some people, I was out looking a couple of years ago, and I don't know how some people can afford $1,800 for a 2-bedroom apartment, plus hydro, plus your gas, plus this, plus that, your food. And I don't know that's now I know why they're raised homeless. What I would like to do, other cities, they're bringing in these small houses, containers converted into housing. They're putting them up, modulars, converted over, bring them all in. We've got land here. We've got land we can put it in and build a small city for them. At least this way here, they're affordable, and then everybody's content, and then we can work on putting up maybe into, I don't know, building apartment buildings later on. Like you can't build it in a day. It's going to take time, and it's going to take money. And like I said, it's going to be a long process. But I think we can do it if we can just get everybody involved. We have empty warehouses. I don't know. We'd have to check with the engineers to see if they can be converted over into apartments. Might be cheaper doing it that way for now. I know there's some housing in London. There's probably about 15, 20 units just sitting empty. They've been empty for 6 months. And what I heard was there's no money. But maybe these people that need the housing, they can go and do some work, fix them up, paint them up, and they still have a place to live. Thank you.
Affordability has been a huge, huge issue. I don't even own my own home. We need to start with the supply issue. London is playing catch up. Right now, they're estimating that we need 2.3 million new homes builds in Canada alone. I've pledged to at least do 40,000 new homes, whether that's units or homes, it's either or. But having said that, we need to redefine what is considered to be affordable. Right now, they say affordable is 80% of market value. Well, if you're charging $2,600 in rent, that's $2,080 by their definition of affordable. That's still not affordable for most people. So if we can make more affordable units as a proportion of each new building that goes in, I'm for that. If we have to develop new co-ops, because we haven't really been doing that since the late 1970s, early 80s, which obviously had the federal and provincial governments involved with that. I'm also looking at applying for some federal programs to help alleviate some of the costs that we're experiencing. And we can definitely convert a lot of our old buildings in London that have been sitting empty for years and convert those into actual living spaces. I'm sure that that would be a much affordable option, and then we can offer that at a lower rate. But having said all this stuff, we're going to need a comprehensive strategy for housing, and the new council will have to come up with that. I don't think we can keep going the way we've been going. Like I said, we're playing catch up, and unless we really try really hard to make it genuinely affordable for people, yeah, we're going to still be struggling. Thanks.
I like some of those answers, Councillor Morgan. Thank you very much. They were very detailed, and they hit the nail on the head. There is a crisis in housing at all levels, from the people in tents in the park or in other parks in the city who are not going to make it through this winter, let's be honest, to seniors who are moving from houses, single-family houses, into apartments because they don't want to go into the nursing homes. Look what happened in the virus. How many did we lose there? They want PSWs to come visit them, and they want services there in their apartments, but there's no apartments. It's almost a near zero vacancy rate. And what is City Hall doing? They're slow with building inspectors. They're slow with the red tape for coming in to help with that. In fact, City Hall is not very friendly to business. There's too many obstacles to get new projects going. We had two councillors years ago, Gord Hume and don't get me going on the other one, but they wanted to get a red tape commission. And what happened? Years later, we still have red tape at City Hall for new projects, new housing. So City Hall can do a much better job for housing from the most vulnerable all the way up to the seniors. There's a crisis at all levels, and we can do much better, from the people on the stage to the people in this room, to work together to solve this crisis, because it's not that difficult. There are problems, certainly, but they're not life and death problems, although some people aren't going to make it. And if we can work together instead of arguing and insulting each other, then maybe we can make some forward progress on this very important topic.
I'm sitting up here, and this gets me really upset. I'm hearing that we can't afford this. And I don't know if we understand that it's people's lives we're playing with. From the KPMG financial statement in 2021, the City of London has a healthy budget of $865 million. Yet, we can't house our friends in our community that are unhoused. We're saying this is a crisis, but yet we have such a healthy surplus. Come on. 4 years on council. Come on. We have to start to hold the city accountable for these actions. There are children in our city that are dying. I personally drove down on York Street and seen a disabled person, and I have a granddaughter that's disabled. And he's in his wheelchair, and his bed's on the floor, but yet we're saying this is a crisis? Come on. What we need to do is to take some of that money that's in the surplus, that's been unallotted. You know what I'm speaking about. It's there for everyone to see. And start to house our friends in the community that's unhoused. Bring in the wrap-around services, because really and truly, I'm going to tell you, I have 8 seconds. I know we have chronic, we have episodic homelessness. We have to deal with the addiction. We have to deal with the trauma that they're going through so that they don't go housed and go back in the streets. But we need to make sure that we hold the city accountable. And voting for me as mayor, that will happen. Thank you.
Not at all. Don't ever apologize for passion. Thank you for your answers. And in fact, you covered a broad spectrum of issues, and we're going to, as a result, move on to a question from the audience. And this one is about farmland and housing. So let's start, and I think, Josh, we're going to start with you. How do you balance the need for housing with protecting valuable farmland? Only 5% of Ontario is available for growing food, and this is according to the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. So the question really is housing versus farmland and spread to Middlesex County communities.
Yes, so first off, when we build new housing in the city, we have to strive for intensification first and foremost, which is why earlier I talked about bringing in a development waiver incentive program to the transit villages and the primary transit corridors. We need most of the new housing to come in intensity in our downtown core and those identified areas of intensification. As for the challenge with what's called ex-urban growth. So this is growth outside of the city limits, in the small communities around where farmland is being taken up, houses are being grown on. We often see this pushed out of our city limits because we're not supplying all of the options that people want to see within the city limits. So you've got small towns exploding around London, and in fact are the primary source of single-family home development in the region. That ex-urban growth is a real problem because those individuals are still commuting into our city. They're using their cars. They're not helping with climate. They're utilizing our infrastructure and resources, and they're not paying any tax for us to support us maintaining that infrastructure. So ex-urban growth and the occupation of farmland around the city is something that we have to partner with our partners around in the county to try to solve. They obviously want the growth, but we have to provide options within our city to try to attract that development into the City of London in an intense form. It's an exceptionally complex problem because it requires multiple levels of government, each operating with their own self-interests at heart. It requires some oversight and partnership with the provincial government, but really this is the sprawl that no one wants to talk about. All the small communities that are just booming outside of the city limits that are consuming city resources and city infrastructure, and quite frankly contributing to the climate crisis that we have by traveling back and forth into the city.
Well, the farmers, they're struggling like everyone else. Cost of food is going up. Like I said, housing, we're taking over the farmland. But we need to build up, but not take all the farmland away. Either we need to help the farmers out, either don't build single-family homes, maybe put up more apartment buildings, take away less of the land, but we need to help them out too. The farmers are struggling. I know a few of them. like they just can't sell the crops anymore because of the price of everything. Nobody can buy it in the grocery store. So either we we can build up either 3-story apartments and keep half the farmland, and then we can turn around and work from there. And then we'll see what happens. But it's hard. It's hard for them to keep going, and it's hard for us to grow. Like you want to grow. You want to go big in London. Like next thing you know would be like New York City. Open your window there, and you're the next building over. That I don't want to see. But we'll have to look at everything and then see where we can go. I mean, if we have to take some of the farmland, we'll take it. Maybe try to move it somewhere else, get them more property somewhere, and then but work with that. Thank you.
I've traveled around extensively in Europe, and I've seen very well-developed cities that aren't doing what we're doing, where we're gobbling up farmland after farmland. I'm very much keen on not gobbling up more farmland. This is why in the London plan, as Josh Morgan mentioned, we had the intensification process because we were supposed to be building up, not out. It makes it easier to service, and we're not gobbling up valuable land that way. Having said that, previous to my other comment, converting old buildings or demolishing some old buildings that we're not using in particular ways is actually another good solution in terms of just reutilizing what we've got and stop just gobbling up new lands. So I'm very much keen on trying to ensure that we protect our farmlands, because if we can't grow food, we're going to be, it's not going to sustain our populations, right? So anything that I can do to ensure that London continues to build up and reutilize these things, I'm for that.
So thank you, Councillor Morgan, for putting the issue forward, urban sprawl. It is true, as you go outside the city limits, you don't pay as much property tax. And so the question that is raised downtown is homeless shelters, things like that. So if we went out to the countryside and asked them, could we build a homeless shelter beside your farm? Would they agree to it? Not in my backyard. How many people have heard that? We have that downtown. City Council had an idea to close down the Men's Mission and the Salvation Army. Just have 50 units, 50 beds in there, because what do when they're kicked out first thing in the morning at 8 o'clock? They come downtown. And what do the downtown businesses have to say about that? Get them out of the downtown, because we're trying to run a business here and we can't have people making trouble for our customers. So will the farmers agree to have low-income housing or something like that, programs for them? Can we bust them out of the city into the country and have a nice solution that way? Probably not. So the issues remain. Can we do something to make both the countryside and the downtown happy? I don't know about that. So we have some country and city problems. And can we work together? We had an annexation issue. We wanted to spread the city down, all the way down to the Elgin line to the south. And what happens? There's a lot of farmland in there, not a lot of city development. So is there room for compromise? Can we get some development down there for the lower end, for the entry level, low income, and maybe shift the load away from the downtown, away from the shelters downtown, and make it easier for the businesses to do something for revitalization of the downtown? Maybe there's some room to work there, but it will take an attitude change.
First of all, we're not a metropolitan city, but we're trying to act like we're a metropolitan city. Bringing in more developers and tearing away from our greenery, it's not the way to go. We have an issue, as we know, with the farms and with the city. With the farmlands, what we need to do is to come together. Have we sat down with some of these farmers, hear what their issues are. Sit, have this conversation. It's time that we do things differently. It's time that the city changes its mindset. Stop acting in silos and start working together. Because each time we're bringing up all these situations, there are solutions to it. But it goes back to the mindset. Have we done in-depth discussions with these farmers to let them know that their voices are important? They're struggling. We're struggling. When do we stop and say, okay, let's come together and work together and drive deliverables that can collectively help our city grow and become better? This is what we need to do. And that's my answer. We need to come together and say to these farmers, let's sit, let's talk, let's hear what you have to say. Because a lot of times you'll be surprised. They have some great ideas, but they're just not being heard. Thank you.
You know, it's about time to think about the future of the City of London, how we're gonna grow. We cannot continue paving our farmland. We cannot continue paving our farmland, and in the meantime, we have the core of the City of London empty. 35% empty buildings in downtown London. We have a lot of parking lots empty. We have a lot of boarded units and houses and buildings boarded. So let's go utilize our core by building up, instead going and paving our farmland. And as you know, when we go outside our boundary, our downtown city, it's cost our city a lot of money. The city for the last 4 years allowed many different developers to go in every directions, south, east, west, north, everywhere. And guess what? Those subdivisions not connected. I was talking to them yesterday and the day before on a regular basis. They tell me they have no buses to go to downtown London. They're not connected with the industrial area. They're not connected with the neighborhood. They cannot move, unless they drive. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is important for us to focus on our core and intensify our building in our core, because we have all the infrastructure there. Let's go utilize it. Let's go get benefit from it. Because every single time we go out, it's gonna cost us more taxes. As you know, we have one of the highest jurisdictions, taxation in the province of Ontario. As a matter of fact, in Canada. If you live in Toronto, you pay 55 cents per thousand. If you live in London, you pay $1.35 per thousand, almost 2.5 times more than Toronto. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's so important for us to focus and have a good plan for today, for the future. But sadly, the City of London, the City Hall, failed for last years to put a concrete plan to move us to next, for the future.
Well, thanks for those thoughtful answers about a very difficult issue. I might add, from the Chamber's perspective, agribusiness is big business. It's not just necessarily farms and farmers. It is big business, and it contributes enormously to the economic prosperity of our city. And we're rather unique in the sense that we sit in a belt of the richest farmland, and that is important. It attracts business. So let's take us away from the ex-urban area, and I'm going to mix it up a bit here, Carrie.
I expect nothing less from you, Graham.
But I'm just sort of going with a little bit with the flow here and combine a couple of questions, because we've been talking about the downtown, right? And we all came down Dundas, and I walked down Richmond and along and in. So we've heard boarded up businesses, boarded up shops, empty buildings, people not coming back to work. So what ideas do you have for one of the most intractable problems that we've got, and that's revitalizing our downtown? London recently gained status as a city of music, and I'm not expecting you to be experts on that piece, but how can we leverage that and other tools that we have to bring to revitalize our downtown. It's critically important. We hear it from businesses all across the city. So we're going to start now with Norman, I believe.
Well, we need to open up more stores, get them back on track, and with the, like I said, with the music, we've already had the awards here. The Juno Awards has been here and everything else. That was a big success, but we need to bring the city back up. The downtown area. I mean, it's like I said, it's boarded up stores. We need to eat. Need to open up, give, I don't know, help them out, help new businesses to get going again. And we need to, we just need to, I don't know, help either give them, subsidize their rent for a few months to get going. I know it's hard to start a new business. It's hard to get people in if they don't know you. So we need to either like advertise London, downtown. We need to try to attract more people, like I said, from the suburbs, get them downtown. We need to attract what everybody wants. Like, you want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, come on downtown. Like, I've been out in the suburbs and they have everything. They have a restaurant for this, they have a restaurant for that, they have 2 or 3 barbershops in one area. Like, we need to attract them, get them downtown, get them to see what London is like. Thank you.
We've been trying to revitalize downtown for some time. Again, goes all the way back into the 1990s that we've wanted to revitalize. Part of the problem that as it stands right now is people don't feel safe when they go downtown. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I think we do need to address the homelessness issue that's downtown currently. Once that is largely under control, it will open it up for businesses because we do have a strong arts culture within London. I used to be part of the artistic community, so I know how that works. But once we actually do that, I want to champion more projects like the Dundas Flex Street. I thought that was a good idea. Similarly, having Fanshawe campus downtown is an excellent idea. I've seen other cities who have had university or college campuses moved down into the downtown core, and it brings more business, right? Because more foot traffic is what you're after. The greater the foot traffic, the more likely that you can set up a shop and service that community and or customers. And in those 2 ways, I think, like I said, because we have a huge artistic community here, we can capitalize on that. But we got to address some of the issues with hopelessness first, and then we can actually utilize the others. Thanks.
So this is my favorite topic. Thank you for bringing it up. You suggested that maybe some people don't have expertise in this, and that's fine, but you probably have an opinion, so give your opinion. Other people want to know what your opinion is. I've been playing the flute for 44 years. I've played up on the stage with the band. And so Orchestra London has been given $300,000 to improve the acoustic environment of the stage across the street from City Hall, Metropolitan United Church, because they hate Centennial Hall, the barn behind City Hall. And I hope everyone agrees with that. If Kitchener can have a 2,000-seat center for the square, I'm not sure what they call it, then why can't London? London has more people than Kitchener. Why can't we do that? And I always get in trouble when I bring this up. I've run for mayor 4 times, and I've tried to bring up a new performing arts center. Why can't we have a new performing arts center? Kitchener has a bigger one than we do. We have more people than Kitchener. And what brings new people, new investment to a city? What keeps them here? The arts and culture. And yes, I know, here comes the rotten tomatoes, but we need it. And you want downtown revitalization, that's going to bring them here. And put in underground parking for safety. They can come in, they can do the show, they can park their car, and they can leave again. And homelessness is a separate issue. We can work on that because it's a big, complicated problem, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be done with one stroke of the magic wand, but they are separate issues, and they are separate crowds. But we need arts and culture because a city without arts and culture is a city without soul. And we need a heartbeat, and we need soul, and a city needs a future, and the city needs arts and culture, and a city like London needs a new performing arts center.
I agree with you there. One thing that it's amazing. We've had some great wins. We're talking about all the negative things, but we've had some really good wins for London, and being designated with UNESCO is a very big win. What can we do? Working together with the Grand Theatre, working together with the London Chamber of Commerce, working together with London Tourism, and piling in a wonderful project where from, let's say, April right back until October, just before it gets really, really cold, we have events that will draw people. I used to be a director of sales and marketing for many of the hotels here in London, Ontario. And one of the greatest things you want to do is always want to market what's your best asset. And right now, we can market with that destination we have by doing events, multicultural events, because we are a beautiful city that is so diverse. But we have to make sure that we are drawing people in, they're staying overnight. But once again, we have to start by putting steps in place to help our friends in the community that are unhoused. We have to make sure that we have foot patrol by security and police, that the community and others are coming in feel safe, so that when we put on these events, people can see how wonderful this city is when we can come collectively together. We can have music events. We can have where children come together and they are playing their instruments. We can have choirs. Well, we have a new collective choir, gospel choir, I believe, that has just started called London's Collective Gospel. We put on different events that represent us as our community. This is what we need to do, and that's what I like to bring to the City of London. Thank you.
So I agree that arts and culture is very important to any city. So the important things for us right now, that before we do anything with downtown, we have to deal with the very important, the most important issues, the homelessness. As you know, we have many different businesses downtown. They are closing, they are suffering, because many Londoners don't want to go downtown. They don't feel comfortable. And as you know, we have one of the most, or one of the 10 best music hall in North America, here in downtown London. The Music Hall of Fame and Music Hall. They try to attract many performers to come to downtown. When I talked to him the other day, he was telling me, we're doing our best, we invest a lot of money to revamp the whole place, to attract more talent to come to the City of London. But sadly, people, when they come downtown, they don't feel comfortable. So we have to deal with this very important issue. And also, we have to work with the business owners in downtown London to give them the chance to be able to sustain their business. And also, as you know, many people know of London, we give $2 million tax incentive to the landlord in downtown London to stay closed. And we have a 35% of vacancy in downtown London. So we have to work with the business owners, with the landlords, to reactivate those businesses to come back again to life, and also to attract the students to live downtown, and also to revamp those buildings to be a house for people in-house, because we cannot afford have people sleep on the street. So, ladies and gentlemen, as elected mayor, I would work with a downtown business community to energize it and make it vibrant again to attract many talented people and attract more business to be able to sustain themselves and be able to serve the City of London, and also to be a place to all Londoners to visit without any fears and feel safe when they walk on the street with their families and their kids.
Well, I'm glad I get to go last on this one because I think there's been some great points made by everyone on the stage here. And I see my friend in the audience, and he always says to me, downtown is like the heart of the city. And when the heart's not healthy, the rest of the body can't thrive. And so it's absolutely something that's critical to us moving forward. And it's a complex problem, and that's why I think everybody's made good points. First, we need to attract businesses to downtown. And we've tasked the LEDC with bringing businesses to downtown. And recently at an announcement, there are 18 new businesses that came downtown. These are entrepreneurs who are taking a chance on our downtown, and we need to support them as best we can. And we need to support them by making downtown as safe as possible, which is why I support the London Police Service in the opening of their new Foot Patrol office downtown to help try to deter some of the crime that's happening in the core. We also need to support, as was said, our most vulnerable in the community. We need to house people. We need to house people with wraparound service supports. We need to get people off the street, and we need to get them in safe, secure housing with the supports they need to thrive. We also need to deal with the unused office space in the downtown, and I think this is where we have a competitive advantage. We have the capacity to attract headquarters and businesses from other higher cost jurisdictions here. We also have the ability to convert some of those office spaces to residential where appropriate, and we can create a permissive environment for that. As was mentioned, we need to leverage our UNESCO designation, our City of Music designation, as well as our newly established film office. And council recently designated downtown as the core area entertainment district. So we need to take advantage of all of the wonderful communities across the city who do programming and activities in Victoria Park and others, and invite them downtown and have them thrive. But in the long term, and the most important thing we can do, is high density residential development. People living downtown, 10,000 more people over the next decade will do more for downtown than any other measure we can take and make it long-term sustainable. We often say the reason why we failed for so many years is we're always trying to get people to come downtown. Getting people to simply live downtown is one of the key ways we can move forward. Thank you.
Thanks again to all the candidates for those passionate answers. Clearly there's lots of great ideas out there. Dan.
We should also give a shout out to Budweiser Garden, 20th anniversary, and
Hear, hear.
corporate icon. What would downtown be without them?
We're going to shift gears a little bit, I think, with the next question, but I neglected to acknowledge from our audience some of these great questions that we're getting. So for the last one that I asked, Diane McComb, who's in the audience from Middlesex London Food Policy Council, thank you for that question. The next one is on climate. And so I'll start there. This is from Marianne Hodge. Thanks so much. Surveys show that the vast majority of Londoners are concerned about climate change and are looking for leadership on how to live more sustainably. What do you see is the city's role in promoting and demonstrating how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions so that we have a chance to meet reduction targets? And I think, Sean, we're starting with you.
Yeah, emissions are a large issue for London. Right now, about roughly 45% is just generated from buildings. About 43% is just from our bus system. Now, there are plans in motion, and I obviously would like to have an electric fleet or a hydrogen fleet for our buses. That will help reduce the emission problem there. For buildings, I would like to promote more rooftop gardens. That's an idea that's been around a long time. I also would like to actually have more just environmentally designed buildings. I saw a wonderful thing. It's a bit futuristic. Some people are using AI to actually design environmentally sound buildings, which was very interesting. But in terms of what we can do right now, I think that doing those two aspects and then finally completing our green bin program that we've been asking for a long time, there are just other ways within the city for us to just, like promoting more cycling, for example, and mass transit has always been an option. But I want to have integrated cycling networks with our BRT system. And I even have super bicycle highways because if we promote more healthier means of getting around, it will help reduce our emissions for the city. Thank you.
So we had a meeting off of Piccadilly. There's a restaurant market there, and some of us were there. Jeff in the second row was there. And some ideas came out of a group called Reforest London. And I would like to thank them if they're in the audience. They opened my eyes because I don't usually talk about these kinds of issues. But a new green bin program, not just a pilot program, but citywide for kitchen scraps, because our W12 landfill site is soon filling up, and the province will not approve a new one or expand it unless we have a greater percentage of diversion. And that will require an investment, along with your blue box on the curb, an extra one for kitchen scrap, a green one. And then that can be diverted for composting and various things that can be done with your kitchen scraps. And from Reforest London, what did we used to be called? We used to be called the Forest City, but that's not true anymore. Hamilton has more trees because developers have been cutting down the trees and they haven't been replanting them afterwards. So why can't we plant more trees? When you plant more shade trees during the heat waves, the temperature of the city comes down. So that will be an investment, but it will be a wise investment. It will take some time for them to grow up and some care, some watering, but it will be well worth it. And there's other things. For new developments, we can insist that there's a setback for trees along the boulevard and along the curb and other things like that. City Hall can be an active driver in these areas. And so far we've been approving new development, but not so much new development along the green environmental climate area. And certainly there can be more effort and more work along those lines if we work together.
Climate change, I just want to thank you, Sean and Dan, for adding those 2 points, because that's exactly what I discuss all the time on my platform. We bring the developers in. There goes our tree. We used to be a forest city. We're not a forest city anymore. I don't know if people understand about the climate change and how it really works, but you know, more sidewalks, what does that do? That heats our environment. The trees cool it down. Bringing the developers in, great, but is there some way that we can hold the developers accountable a bit, as other locales have? So when they come in, there's a certain amount of trees that they have to make sure stays or that gets planted in, because we have to make sure that our future is secure for the youth and for our children. And the other thing is stop postponing the compost, now utilizing it. It's very important for our future. And also in regards to homes, new homes coming in, making sure that the material that they're using is environmentally friendly. Have a checklist. That is something that locals do right now that can be and should be implemented. So when they do come in, we know what is being the material being used on the new developing houses or buildings are environmentally friendly. The rooftop garden, or making sure that the rooftops are solar panel, that we are going to be here for years to come. We have to make sure that we get an understanding about this climate so we can reduce the carbon footprint. Thank you.
Yes. As you know, we are the steward of this land. We have to pass it on for next generation in good shape. The City of London spend almost $2 billion a year on energy. We contribute almost $3 billion, 3 billion ton in gas emissions every year. And half those green gas emissions comes from institutions, like Fanshawe, like Weston, like hospitals, like the buses. So my take on it, we should convert all the buses we use in the City of London to electric buses to reduce the emissions. And also we have to stop dumping sewage in our river, which affect the river badly and affect the downriver, the people, especially the indigenous community, who's benefiting from the river, and other people too. So, and also we call ourselves as a forest city. We're not forest city anymore. So we should work with Reforest London and other organizations to plant more trees to help us to clean our environment. And also, I commit as a next mayor to increase our canopy by 40%. And it's important for all of us to work together with builders to make sure whatever we build has to be energy efficient and not produce more emission to the environment. I learned the other day we have a good company came to London and building a big building in West London, the UNS2E, I think, technology, net zero housing, which I think I encourage all the people to benefit from this program. And Fanshawe College, one of the leaders in this matter, who are encouraging people to be like net zero housing, which lower our contribution to the emissions. So by working together with developers as a community, a leadership from the City Hall can do this by bringing people together, cities, developers together, business community together to protect our environment.
First off, thank you, Marianne, for the question and for your continued advocacy on environmental issues. You're one of the heroes in our city on that file, and we really appreciate everything you do. It's funny, up here, as the only incumbent, I get blamed for pretty much everything council's done in the history of council. But one of the things I'm very proud of, and one of the things our council was unanimously united on, every single member, every single diverse voice on that council was approving our climate emergency action plan, unanimously. It is an important step forward, and now it needs to be implemented. And not only do we need to implement it, but I'm committed to doing regular check-ins on our emissions targets, seeing where we are. Are we tracking towards the emission reductions that we need to hit, or do we need to make adjustments to the plan? A plan is only as good as your check-in, your measuring, and your adjustments to it to make sure you hit it. So that climate emergency action plan has a number of great innovations in it. We can't do it alone. It's not just things that the City of London will do. And yes, we've committed to electrifying the transit fleet. Yes, we've committed to implementing the green bin program. The only delay in that is a supply chain issue with truck chassis, and they don't work so well without the chassis. So once those come in, we will have a fully fledged green bin program next year. We are working towards electrifying the fleet. The London Transit Commission has done a great study on that. They're going to participate in the QTRIX program, which if I had more time, I'd explain what that is. We're moving forward on these. One of the other things we've done is we've created a climate emergency screening tool that will be attached to all of our reports. So City Council can clearly see the climate impacts of its decision making right there in the decisions it's making. We are moving forward on this. This is incredibly important. Finally, on tree planting, we have a tremendous opportunity to leverage more trees. The federal government has committed to planting 2 billion trees across the country. They will develop programs. The worry I have is that it's going to be very easy for them just to focus on rural communities. We need the federal government to develop urban-based tree planting programs for cities like London that we can take advantage of and leverage the work of Reforest London and our Million Trees Challenge. Thank you.
All good answers. Well, first of all, we got to start recycling more. There's still a lot of stuff going to landfills, which shouldn't be there. And the green bin, that is great. Once we get that going, that should eliminate a lot of it. Second of all, we need to, like the city fleet, like I said, buses electrified. Well, we need to do more than that. We've got all the cars running around, the bylaw cars, they need put them electric. And we need to put an idling policy. Like, you got trucks running downtown, they're running 2-3 hours down there doing deliveries. In other cities, 5 minutes, 10 minutes idling, that's it. If not, you get fined, or you got to move. We need to, like I said, more trees. We got to get the trees back in. Solar panels, they were working there for a while, and we don't see them anymore. We need to clean up the streets too. I know the streets are, I mean, there's leaves, the bags are out there for a month at a time before it even gets picked up to get in to get compost. We need to implement to get them picked up on a more regular basis than even the garbage pickup. Like there's some weeks there, like I said, you go 5 weeks, and then next week you don't get garbage pickup. And then where's that garbage go? It just sits there, sits there, sits there. So then you have rodents in there, you have bacteria. So we need to try to get the city cleaned up more so there isn't as much debris. Like I said, we need to just work together. All the council, even the City of London, everybody here needs to do their part to purify, get us back up there to the Forest City. Thank you.
Wonderful, and I just want to point out that all of this aligns so closely with the Chamber's new strategic plan, which emphasizes not only economic prosperity, but social progress. Clearly, climate change is an issue for everyone. I'm also going to take, I'm a big tree person, so I'm going to take a chance to quote George Orwell. He said, "The planting of a tree is a gift which you can make to posterity. Maybe the greatest gift that you can make to posterity. It will far outlive the visible effect of any of our actions, good or bad. Put an oak tree in the ground, it will live 300 to 500 years." So, with that said, I have a question from the president of Fanshawe Student Union, and Ismail Arabi. And with your permission, Ismail, I'm just going to meld it a little bit, but staying on topic. This is obviously an enormous opportunity for businesses in London. We have two world-class institutions which have enormous population, foreign students, there's more coming. And there are a welter of issues tied to this. How do we house them properly? How do we connect them with the business community? How do we ensure that they're not living in a bubble on campus? From the business perspective, we view this as our future, and it's an incredible future. It's a diverse future. So my question to the candidates, and are we starting down there with Dan, I think? Dan, what would you do to help our international student community become successful?
Okay, so this is a big one. Thanks to Camille before for updating my figures. We're at over 80,000 Western and Fanshawe students. It's the biggest industry for London, for those of you who don't know it. Not only are they coming from international locations, but they're also coming from London and surrounding areas. Now, Western, less than 20 people stay after they graduate. Western, it's a little bit higher because a lot of them are from local areas. But it is true. They do not stay by and large, whether it's Western, which is the worst, or Fanshawe. But if you look at other places like Kitchener has its co-op program there. And so why are they not staying? Because they have no jobs after they graduate, not in their fields, not in the place where they were studying. So let's have more programs, co-op programs, placement programs that are paid, not volunteer exploitation programs. And guess who can do a good job with that, or at least can help with their contacts? The Chamber of Commerce. And as if we work together with City Hall. Now, City Hall may not be in the employment business per se, but it has, contacts and can facilitate with meeting space, working with the Chamber and other business groups to bring the students in with their programs and to have them come in and see what the real world is like, not the classroom, so that they have an opportunity to stay afterwards and maybe get a job and stay in London afterwards. There's an idea. How about that? Not just come to London to learn, but to stay afterwards. It's our biggest industry, so why not make use of it? Because a city without young people has no future, does it? So let's work together on that.
Ensuring that when our students are coming in, that they have their student liaison officer that would be able to give them some wraparound services. So when they do come in, then they will be able to be connected with the Small Business Center, be connected with the London Chamber of Commerce, be connected in order for when they are ready to take the next step, that they are getting co-op. I do like what you said there, Dan, because that's what I wanted to say. I don't like to repeat things that people are already saying because it makes no sense. But one thing I know for sure, when I had my niece come in from Jamaica, and she was a student at Fanshawe, so this is a lived experience for me. Can't work for free, can't do that. And so a lot of the programs that were offered was for her to work for free. Can't do that. So could we design a program alongside with Western and with Fanshawe to develop a program with our other community organizers to say, when they come into this program, can they receive $15 an hour? I'm going to tell you something right now. Western University is doing that. Wayne Community Center is a part of that. And so when they come in, these young men, because I am coding, and so what happens is they choose an organization, they're getting paid, they come in, they get paid for this, and it might be $15, $16, but they're not working for free because they can't do that. And what does that help to do? That helps to build our economy, helps to build them, because now what's going to happen when they finish out Western, they're going to end up staying here in the city, and that's what we want to do because we want to build our businesses and we want to build our future. So these programs can happen. It is happening. All we have to do is develop it on a bigger scale. And voting for me for mayor, as I have these lived experience and I know how to get it done, it'll get done. Thank you.
But I know always my friend Josh thinks we are dumping on him. I want to say something very important, Josh. Like, the city works in silos. The whole pillars of the city work in silos. For instance, I was telling Daniel earlier this morning, the Fanshawe College attracted 14,000 extra students this year. University of Western Ontario attracted 5,000 extra students. Did we discuss it with the city? Did the city discuss it with Fanshawe College and the University of Western Ontario? Where are we going to house those people? How are we going to bus those people? Did we discuss it about our vision, the plan, what kind of business we want those people to work in? We did not. So we have a problem of communication among us in the City of London. So in order to have a successful city, we have to open the dialogue between Fanshawe, Western, hospitals, Chamber of Commerce, all the pillars who part of our economical growth in the City of London. So therefore, as elected mayor, I will open this dialogue. I'll put a plan, came as a result of working together, a vision for next 5 years, for next 10 years. And also, I will create a committee to attract good paying jobs to sustain those students stay in London. I know I work with Fanshawe College on a regular basis. They graduate amazing students, can be important for many factories, many companies, many offices in the City of London. We use some of them in our company. It's important to open the dialogue. It's what's lack for the last administrations. And my friend Josh always saying, we're facing challenges, not challenges, crises. For the next 4 years, if we don't act on it, will be a disaster. So therefore, we have to work together. Ladies and gentlemen, vote for me as your next mayor. I will get the job done. I will have a prosper, vibrant city called London.
Well, thank you very much. I want to give a slightly different perspective on this because I think there's been some good answers given. I came to London to go to university, and I never left. Now I'm running for mayor. So I kind of reflected on, what it was about my university experience that caused me to stay. And I would say, unlike some of my friends who I went to university with, I got involved in the community outside of the boundaries of Western. It's very easy. It's a self-contained city to just spend all of your time there. You can eat there, you can buy groceries there, you can live there, you can pretty much just pretend that's your city. But I got involved outside and I got to know people, I got to know the city, I got to know the features of it, and I decided that this was a place where not only did I want to live, but ended up raising my family here. And now my mom has come to London and my brother's come to London, and so, but it's that. You're right, there are silos, and the biggest silo is around the institutions because they supply so much and make it so easy for students to just stay there that they miss all of the wonderful opportunities our city has for them. and we desperately need them, as has been said. We are creating more jobs than we've ever created, and one of the challenges we have is with talent. And yet, at the same time, we have talented people who are being trained within our city who are then choosing to go elsewhere. And so, absolutely, we need to engage with Western and Fanshawe. We need to engage with the students while we have that precious time here, whether it's 4 or 6 years, to showcase our city, show them everything that is wonderful about making this a place to live, work, play, raise a family, and to stay here. And I don't want to get into the supports for international students. I think that some great answers have been given on that. But it's really about providing that connection between not just City Hall and the students, but between all the wonderful things that our city has to offer and the students who are here for a short period of time that we want to make forever. Thanks.
Well, I just want to say, I did go back to Fanshawe, and I'll tell you, it's a big difference, especially at my age, going back when you get students in there 18, 19, 20 years old, like, and they're self-contained in there. They have Fanshawe. Like I said, you can buy your groceries there. You can Starbucks. They got Tim Hortons. They've got a bar in there. Like, they don't even have to leave. It was never like that when I went to school. But we do need to attract the students to stay here. Either, like I said, some businesses can't afford to pay them. Maybe they can implement something for their housing, or something for their food, subsidize their food or something, just so they can work at these places and see what London is really like. I know the businesses are trying to attract new employees, and these students need to see that we need them here. And if it's going to be a hard struggle to keep them here. Like, there's other companies out there, like they go to Toronto or they go overseas. They're paying more money. They pay them this. They pay them that. So we have to implement something to keep them in the city, keep them happy, keep them that they want to be here with us. Thank you.
I'll say this, most students genuinely want to live here and they want to stay, they want to contribute. But we have a couple issues. One is, and this issue has been ongoing since I was at Western, about 15 years ago now, dating myself here. Transit issues in terms of overcrowded buses. Still have overcrowded buses and students being left on the sidewalk waiting for the next bus. That's not conducive to getting students to feel like they can work here. But I'm also looking at doing a student accommodation policy. I want to designate certain areas, schools for student living, because as I've been informed by people who are doing their masters or whatever, they will have a four-month gap over the summer between Western money being able to compensate for them till the fall. And that gap causes a lot of harm for them because they have to scramble to find employment. So if we can link up with more employers to provide a little more of a transition for students looking for the summer work, I think that's something that we would like to do. And finally, I'd like to say that students have a huge stake in supporting our local economy. They're a lovely resource for London. London, I don't think, would be surviving if we didn't have our student populations here. So the more that we can help them, the more we can help ourselves in our city. Thank you.
Thanks so much again to the candidates. I would offer perhaps one last perspective on this topic, and that is there's a great advantage to living in London, but perhaps earning your money elsewhere. And so I would put it out to the candidates, not for answer right now, but just to suggest, and selfish plug, I work for TD Bank. Transit outside of London to get easily to other cities so that people can live in London and earn their money elsewhere. Just food for thought. So I'm going to, again, switch gears a little bit, but a topic that's critically important, and that is on equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's a big one. So I'm going to narrow it a little bit if I can. What I'm interested in knowing from the candidates, and Sandie, we're going to start with you, is, we've just had our second National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And I think the important part of that is to start with the truth and understanding what the truth is around equity, diversity, and inclusion in our city. So I'd like to understand from the candidates first that question, how you would educate on truth, and then also what your journey plans to be on towards reconciliation, and particularly for our Indigenous community, but more broadly, I think, on overall all of the diverse communities within London. So, Sandie, if I can, I know it's a big topic, but I'd love to start with you.
It is. I only have 2 minutes, so let's see what I can do. Truth and Reconciliation Day, it's an eye-opener, but it's sad to say that it's 2 years that we're celebrating. So the truth is, how do we define that word truth? And it's continuing to educate people on the richness of the city we live in. What has happened to the Indigenous and the Black community in this city in order for us to try to reconcile who we are as a city. We have to change the mindset. We have to now understand that it's not about race, to say Black race, white race. There's only one race, and that's the human race, and that is the truth. Go ahead and clap. I see you guys want to clap. And that is the truth. And when we can change that mindset, then we can start to reconcile everything else. I was invited to a meeting at Western University, where their first one that they had, where they had the elders from the Indigenous community, and they invited myself to do a blessing, where they first had their very first meeting for alumni of the Indigenous community and the Black community. Did you hear what I said? The first time. That's not good. There was a time where we weren't allowed on Western university property, nor the Indigenous community. And so now in 2022, we are celebrating alumni from these individuals. I know my time is over. One thing I want to do as mayor is bring in a true inclusivity. We have a Black liaison officer, which is great. We have an Indigenous liaison officer, which is great. We don't have a Two-Spirit LGBTQI liaison officer, which is needed. I know they're looking for a Muslim liaison officer, but if we want true inclusivity, we have to get these pockets filled so all voices are heard. Thank you. I went over.
Truth and reconciliation is important. You said something very important. Truth, the most important things. We have to be honest with ourselves. So what happened in our city, especially after the massacre of Abdal family, changed my perspective. I thought when I came to London in 1989 as a student, I'm going to live in a beautiful, peaceful city. It is beautiful, beautiful and peaceful city. But we ignore the most important elements in our society. How we can bring people together. How we introduce ourselves to each other. The only way we can eliminate the differences among us when we know each other. When we work together to have one common goal, the peace and truth and reconciliation among ourselves. So we shouldn't base our differences on race, on color, ethnicities, religions, sexual orientations. We should base it only on how much we give back to our community and our society. So this one can only happen when we work together, when we be honest and sincere with each other, in order to build a peaceful and loving community. So this comes from the leadership to top down, to bring the people together. So as an elected mayor, I have the skills and the ability to bring many communities together and work together to create better London for every one of us. And thank you.
Well, thank you for the exceptionally important question. I'm going to answer it in two parts, institutional action and individual action. First, on the institutional side, as a city, we have committed to the municipal components of truth and reconciliation. We've moved towards doing land acknowledgements at City Council. As was mentioned, we've built capacity in the equity space by creating the Anti-Racism, Anti-Oppression Division, reports directly to the city manager and city council, and we're currently building out the capacity of that division by adding new liaison officers, as was mentioned. But really, despite the fact that we may not have a liaison officer for every group, it's really about the equity work that's being done in that group, and many equity deserving groups are getting service from that new division, even if they don't have a specific liaison officer. That's institutional capacity. That gives us the ability to do things like develop our plan to disrupt Islamophobia in the city, a plan that is being recognized across the country as a template for not just passing motions, but taking action. These are the types of things that cities need to do. These are the types of things and the conversations we have to be at the center of, not just part of, but at the center of. Individual action matters too, particularly on truth and reconciliation. What you do yourself to recognize that the way that this country and even this city has treated Indigenous populations is not something to be proud of. You can be proud of our country and also recognize that it has treated its Indigenous communities exceptionally poorly throughout its history. Instead of going to the on Remembrance Day, instead of going to the cenotaph at City Hall, I went to the cenotaph on the Oneida Nation to recognize the contributions that they made to Canada's participation in the Great Wars. I also have brought my daughter to pretty much every event I possibly could where she can see the world from a different perspective than maybe I had growing up in a small rural town. These individual actions, the things you can do for yourself and your family, are really key, as well as the institutional actions. So everybody here has a responsibility to both truth and reconciliation and moving equity justice forward. I went over time too, so I apologize for that, but thank you.
Truth. That's what everybody wants to hear, the truth. And I think there's still more out there that needs to be said. I live in a co-op, like I said. I live with all walks of life in there. And I get along with everybody. But then you just get one person that says, well, I don't like him. Or why is he taking my job? Why can't he go somewhere else? Well, that's the way it is. Everybody needs to work together, and they need to be educated on all walks of life. Like I said, if you don't like, well, he's taking my job. Well, maybe you should go and do something else and see what it's like. And then you'll see why they're here working. Like some of these countries where they come from, it's poor. And they have nothing. Like in our co-op, we had a family move in, I don't know, 7 of them in there. And they were redoing the kitchen, and they said, well, you don't have a kitchen for a couple months. Well, he says, this is a lot better than what we had. We had a dirt floor, and we cooked on a hot plate, and that's all we had. He said, this is just like living in a hotel. But we do need to educate everyone and let everybody know just exactly what it's like out there. And racism, there's no part of it. Should never be a part of it here. Like the family that got run over up there, that should never have happened. Never. And with everything else going on with the racial slurs, we get that in our complex. They're gone. Out. They're gone, looking for somewhere else. We don't want them there. And we don't need them in London or anywhere else. So we need to, like I said, we just need to educate everybody on who everybody is, who you are. And once you figure out who you are, then everything should be good. Thank you.
One of the things is we're trying to reduce fear of the other. right? And this largely is around education, to reducing that barrier. So if that means that we have to do more cultural fairs, just to simply educate people about other cultures. Indigenous population is one of the fastest growing demographics in this country right now. So it's an appropriate time for us because I think all of our mindsets have been changing in light of the residential school system and the discoveries made there. That's shocked most Canadians because it's a dark chapter in our history that most were unaware of. But in terms of some concrete things for equity and diversity, I'm familiar with working in an organization where it had 49% women, 51% men. It was great. So if we can reduce more barriers by simply reducing the silo effects in City Hall, so the departments are conversing with other departments, so people are socializing with other people, and also going so far as your application process when you apply, so that you can actually see the feedback for when you're applying and where things go wrong, so that you can actually redouble your efforts to improve your applications. These type of measures will go a long way to helping reduce the lack of diversity that exists. So I'm trying to encapsulate those type of qualities in order to suss out what we're looking for. Thank you.
So there was some good points being made here, but they're talking around the issue. And meetings are good. I heard that over there. But sometimes meetings for the sake of having meetings does what? So let's be honest. Lip service and empty platitudes does what? Nothing. We had a candidate, Chabar, running in a previous election, and he went door to door. And what did he get? Kind of a frosty reception, because most of London is what? White, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, WASP. So when someone comes who is not white and has a different color of skin and they come knocking on the door as a candidate, what happens? They're not exactly welcomed, are they? And you want to run for public office? So what do we call that? Racism. And we can talk about it and we can have meetings about it, but what is done about it? Nothing. And we can have land acknowledgement statements, but what is done about it? So we have 3 reserves southwest of London. We have Muncie, we have Oneida, we have Chippewas of the Thames, but how many go down and see what's actually going on there? The off reserve, we have Namarand on Colburn near Horton, we have Adlosa, Richmond near York, but how many go there and see what's going on, see what their programs are, seeing how they can come and volunteer, helping out, or are they silos of service and they don't really mix in because of racism, ignorance, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant. So we can talk about it with lip service and empty platitudes. 20,000 in the park for Black Lives Matter or for the other one. And those are great, don't get me wrong. But from day to day, 30% of the homeless are First Nations. Let's do something about it instead of lip service and empty platitudes.
Thanks very much for the answers there. I know it's a big topic and it's hard to answer in 2 minutes, so I appreciate you giving that a good attempt. I think we're close. This was excellent. This was such a healthy, diverse conversation on a myriad of topics, and I just want to thank the candidates for giving your honest and transparent answers. It was obvious in this format. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone here who's joined us. I want to make sure that we acknowledge all of the help and support that we've had for this event today. So let me thank the great staff here at the Wolf Performance Hall. Isn't this a great venue? And of course, as Graham said earlier in the agenda, our primary sponsor, Labatt, and of course, our media sponsor, Rogers TV, for helping make this event happen.